Shawn Maestretti went through a process of discovery over degraded habitats and degraded opportunities for open space that he's come up with quite an interesting proposal for a very appropriate site. Shawn.
Thanks. Hi, good morning. I'm Shawn Maestretti. Over the past year, I've been inspired by many books. Two books stand out in particularly. One has changed my life, which is The Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. And in that book, he describes the nature deficit disorder that this society is currently experiencing. And in his book, he describes the problems and solutions related to that disconnect from nature. And solutions such as exposing to nature could would help people with challenges such as ADHD, anxiety, depression, and even obesity. The second book that I looked into was called Ecological Urbanism, which was a series of essays from Harvard University. And in that book, they describe ecological infrastructure as the structural landscape network composed of critical landscape elements and spatial patterns. And the four goals of ecological infrastructure are provide food production and clean water, regulate climate, disease, flood, and drought, support nutrient cycles and habitat for native plant and animal species, and sponsor culture associated with spiritual and recreational benefits. At the beginning of the year, we were asked to develop a big idea and a list of goals. And my big idea is blending the edges of community and greenway to solve environmental problems, improving habitat quality and quantity while connecting people to nature. The list of goals I created are to enhance pollinator populations by creating and preserving wildlife habitats, collecting, treating, and utilizing stormwater to sustain these habitats, educating children and adults at an environmental academy campus, involving the community through a connective series of park spaces and trails, and attracting residents and visitors by calming traffic zones and developing safe gathering places. We were asked to apply this big idea and these goals to 3 different sites. And first I looked at Pacoima Wash and the Hanson Dam in the Sylmar area, and I also looked at the rock quarries in the Irwindale area around the San Gabriel River, and of course I looked at Long Beach. And we were to create a program for all of our sites. And in my program, I've incorporated a continuous habitat corridor, a continuous open space network. I felt that green infrastructure would be a major part of this project, as I want to create a site that is self-sustaining and energy neutral. Education is also a major factor in this project, and community connections, and of course street calming to enhance those community connections. I felt that Long Beach best fit my program, not only because the residential edge, there's a large residential edge which is made up of many different income levels, much like such as Carson over here across the river is a very low income area. This northern part of Long Beach is very low income. And then this is sort of a mid-income range down here below this country club golf course. I also wanted to close multi-generational gaps with my project and a way to balance social justice. And most importantly, connecting people to nature. In my master plan, you can see throughout the entire plan and right here in this diagram, the braided river concept. The braided river concept came about when I was developing my circulation plan. And as I was developing my circulation plan through the site, I saw a braided river, and I thought, how compelling would that be to incorporate this as my main concept for the project, because it's the remnant of the long-lost Los Angeles River. And you can see the braided river concept starting in these tributaries on the west side of the river, connecting and converging and combining and running through the Pollinator corridor, through all these sites, through the Adventure Playground, through the School of Ecology, and even coming over here from the community of Carson, all terminating right here at the Long Beach Environmental Academy campus. The Environmental Academy campus was designed to expose people to nature through science, technology, ecology, art, and mathematics, as well as agriculture, horticulture, food sciences, and culinary arts. The design of the campus, you can see these very large concentric circles. As you can see in this section right here, I've used a lot of patterns in nature to help me organize my spaces. And I use overlapping concentric circles to create more dynamic garden spaces and pathways throughout the site. And you can even see the concentric circles extending out over the river as in the form of solar panels. As I mentioned, I wanted to I wanted to make my site energy neutral and self-sufficient, and this was one way of going about it. And on top of that, I've also incorporated solar harnessing on my parking garages and within the solar shade structures throughout the site. You can see the braided river concept terminating and repeating throughout the site here in this serpentine line in which all of the campus buildings follow. I built the buildings into that serpentine line because I felt that they needed to be a part of the circulation. And on each of these buildings, which my inspiration came from architect Zaha Hadid and her organic forms, you can see in this AXA when you come up later that the buildings are accessible by everyone through green roof trails on the top to also extend the habitat. At the top here, you see this Garden Bridge community connection, which connects the community of Carson to the Pollinator the Greenbelt project, as well as the Environmental Academy campus. And my inspiration came from the Vancouver Land Bridge, which not only carries people across a very busy thoroughfare, but also wildlife and habitat as well. You can see a scene of a couple looking out over the Los Angeles River from the bridge right here. And in this scene, you can see people running along the serpentine line path and looking out at the riparian overlook. And in this scene, I imagine a couple of students getting up at the crack of dawn, yeah, right, going out to the campus to do some tree identification or animal identification for one of their courses at the School of Ecology. Great. The next portion of the campus, which is just over here to the west side of the river, underneath a long utility corridor shown here, and in the middle of a few equestrian centers as well. I wanted to point that out because that becomes important later. But this is the Environmental Academy School of Ecology and Agriculture. And in this, at this campus, children will learn the fundamentals about the current state of the environment while with a strong emphasis on solution-based practices. And in this education, they will be growing and studying about plants and wildlife for habitats related to the Greenbelt project, shown here in this diagram, and exposing students to a more intimate relationship in nature. The diagram represents the pollinator relationship to food. Such as the flying insects relationship shown by the solid line, the food relationship between the pollinators and the plants, and of course the dotted line showing the larval relationship. Within the campus, I've incorporated on the north end, this is the Ecology Campus, and as I mentioned, I use patterns in nature to organize my spaces. Shown here, with the use of a grid in this area, I was looking at images in nature that I felt related to the project, and I saw this image of microscopic pollen, which I've represented in the location of my growing plots in the ecology school. And with that same grid, I was able to create the honeycomb pattern of plant cells in the agriculture school seen here. And I hope you can come up and take a closer look at this. Within this campus, I have I'm showing habitat demonstration gardens as well as ethnobotany demonstration gardens. And for those of you who don't know what ethnobotany is, it is the study of the relationship between plants and man, such as food and medicine. I've incorporated small greenhouse structures. They're big but small greenhouse structures. As we're under a utility corridor, I need to keep that in mind. That where the community and children and students can learn the importance of propagating and growing the plants to be used within the Greenbelt and within the community beyond. And also there's part of this is a butterfly pavilion, because as we all know, the monarch butterfly population is in steady decline, and I figured this would be a great way to repopulate the pollinator populations within the area. I've located lots of parking in this area, and right here is a detail of how I would be capturing water throughout the entire site. Shown in red is the Archimedes Screw, which is there's a detail right here, and I chose the Archimedes Screw because Archimedes was the father of science and technology. And it's a pretty cool device, and it's a low-impact device, that a way that I would be able to capture water from the Los Angeles River by the use of rubberized inflatable dams, and the Archimedes Screw here on the side. And here's a scene from within this campus, and I imagine myself in 5 years being that guy teaching children about habitats and horticulture. The Delamo Crossing and Bike Cafe is an enlargement of this section right here. I repeated this concept at both Long Beach Boulevard and Delamo because I wanted there to be a safe crossing point, a safe access point to, again, enhance the braided river concept, the circulation concept through the whole project. I've expanded the river for safe passage so that equestrians can cross, the equestrian community can cross here and cross safely to stay on this side of the river, and the bicycle community, which extends from the foothill of the San Gabriel Mountains all the way down to Long Beach. Within this site is a continuous bike path dedicated for bicyclists. And also at this site, there's the, much like the frog spot in Elysian Valley, where bicyclists get to stop along the river, have a cup of coffee, have a sandwich, take a restroom break, park, and in this situation, I've created parking and bike parking so that residents or visitors can come rent a bike and enjoy the habitat trails and so on. Here you can see an enlargement of how I would be capturing water in these wetlands, which I forgot to mention, I apologize. There's a wetlands extension here, I mentioned before, which is an extension of the existing Dominguez Gap wetlands, which currently captures 1 to 3 million gallons per day of urban runoff and stormwater. And I intend to do that. What it does is it filters the water and the pollutants through phytoremediation, which is the use of plants to filter pollutants out of water through their roots and through their leaves. And it not only recharges the groundwater, but they also return it back to the river. And my idea is to keep it on site, send it through some microfiltration units, which you can see here within the water towers, and storing them in water towers so that we could utilize that water within those water towers to irrigate multiple sites throughout the entire project. And I've repeated that many times. The wetlands and habitat trails, you can see I've repeated through these multi-use paths the braided river concept. This is a place where, as you can see here, children can be in touch with nature. This is a very low impact design, very suitable for underneath utility corridors, and I look forward to your questions on that. And, and then within the site, there's multiple nesting grounds, because not only is it important to provide food for the pollinators, but a place to breed and nest. And I've incorporated a couple of crossing bridges throughout the sites, and within the crossing bridges there are solar shade structures and overlooks with solar shade structures over the wetlands extension. And here's another detail of the water tower. And here from the left, which I felt was one of the most important concepts in this entire project, is how am I going to connect this entire community, all these communities around this site to the site. And at the end of each street I've opened up access, and I felt that that was really important throughout this whole process. So in conclusion, my mission for this project is to connect people to nature through recreation, education, and stewardship. And by doing that, we impact our habitats, we impact our water quality, and we impact our health. And in turn, we restore balance, we increase our vitality, and we enhance our lives. And beyond that, which is the ultimate goal of this project, we enhance our pollinator populations, we become more drought resilient, and we build healthy communities. And all of these steps lead to a better quality of life, which I'm sure is what we're all going for. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
Oh, sorry.
You have a comment?
Thank you very much. Sorry, guys. About learning about the different aspects that you've incorporated in the design to support this connection of nature and the people.
A comment on the actual site planning aspects of it, since obviously fragmentation is not really a great thing for nature. I wonder, in terms of looking at the site plans, if there could be a little more hierarchy in terms of pathway and circulation within the sites, because it seems to me, when I look at the plans, there's a lot of areas that are more like, let's say, paved areas, and that since they're so close to such harsh, more urban areas that don't have greening, that to have these sites even have more of that would be, I think, beneficial.
Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. And the whole site, and because this is an enlargement of this huge space right here, and I could have done several enlargements within this site, and each of them being more intricate and more intricate. And you know, I did use this light color, and please forgive that. The scan that went through, I did, you know, the drawings look so much different, much more different, and so much better. I know, right? Wah, wah. But you know, it was my intention that within those circles and within those lines and within those spaces that there were multiple things going on, especially the green space, and it's less fragmented. I know it looks that way here, but I wanted to show the organizational concept within this plan, and without muddying it up at this scale.
Yep.
You're entirely in the Forgotten 40 reach?
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the top of this, if you go up a little bit, would be Vernon.
Correct.
The bottom would be Long Beach.
Correct. Long Beach, Carson, East Dominguez Ranch.
That piece is called the Forgotten 40.
Okay.
Mia Lair did a master plan for LA City, and she stopped at Vernon. Long Beach has their own master plan coming up. They're very urban oriented. A lot of hardscape, a lot of terracing down into the river, concrete, and so on. Taking the bottom, taking the country bottom. What's unique about this is you've taken a whole different approach. I don't know if you know that. You probably ought to refer to those two plans, because you're the connector.
Okay.
Two, in the comment about how you move out into the edge of community. Are you totally within the LA flood control right away?
Yes.
So now you have an abrupt edge. And the comment that was made is very pertinent to how that places in the community. But I think this is a very appropriate educational tool and treats the river with more respect and habitat with more respect. That's the way it was. It's you know, it changed course every year. You take out Compton 1 year and Fairmont next, whatever. So you kind of brought that soft edge that it originally had back into the community. And I think the components are, got to look at it in more detail, but very appropriate to that level of education and placing back into its context. That's a tough edge to deal with, but we do it.
Thank you.
Very good. Andy, and Meg,
Shawn, you did a great job. I really like the overriding concept of the whole thing. But there was just one thing you touched on, and you did it near the beginning of your presentation, and I don't believe you touched on it again. And these are these circles that, or arches that go into the LA River area. And you mentioned that it's solar.
Yeah.
And then that was last time you brought that up. So I guess I'm a little curious as to, are those suspended above the river somehow?
Thank you for asking that. And yeah, as I've done this, practiced this, it's changed every single time. So the blue, which I meant to mention, the blue dots represent how I would be harnessing solar power, as well as here with the large solar panels that extend out in the concentric circles. And I was really moved when I saw this image here in India of solar panels stretched across a channel. Obviously, this is a much smaller channel, but I thought, why can't we do that here? This is such a long, ginormous area, and very interpretative. And I thought, you know what, from the 710 freeway in certain areas, you really wouldn't see it if it looked like this. Now this almost comes in the form of art. It almost comes in the form of the concept. So this was my inspiration for solar energy over the river, and I repeated that throughout the site.
I make one more comment. It's just regarding reports. And, during your presentation, and I hope you forgive me, I had to get cell phone out. I wasn't like checking my email. I was just trying to find on the map where this was because we don't have labels.
Yes. So I have some context here, and I did note that the freeway's on this map. Please forgive me for not putting it on this map. This is the 91 freeway here at the top. This is the 405 freeway here down at the bottom. And this is the 710 running along the Los Angeles River.
So that might have been helpful to label those on each of the illustrations. So
Yes.
that zoom in, because I was sitting there kind of, where
Yeah.
the heck is he? Funny.
There.
Just to tag on to Andy's point, it took me a while to figure out that was the river, and I was trying to figure out what freeway that was. So yeah, labels are
Yes.
helpful. Then to the PV bridges, I'm just wondering about the scale of those because they're almost as wide as the bottom bridges, which looks like a four-way freeway.
This here?
Yeah, the scale of them is quite large.
Of the solar panels?
Yeah. I mean, you're
Again, this was a concept. This was a big idea project to be, taken to an engineer's office or a big governing agency for proof of concept. That was the concept behind it. So I was following the forms and the scale of the circular spaces that I was creating within the site so that it resonated at this scale.
And then my other, just one quick question.
Yeah.
Just you never mentioned who this school is for. Like what age group is this academy for? Is this university? Is it
So
community?
thank you for asking that. I forgot. I meant to mention there are currently 3 environmental charter schools in Southern California: Gardena, Irvine, and Maywood. 2 middle schools, 1 high school. I decided to drop the charter school buzzword, and we called it an environmental academy. And I would like to think that this academy would be from K through 12, even stretching out into adults. I mean, obviously, I'm not designing a curriculum for LAUSD or whomever it is, but I want this to be an all-inclusive adult community classes on the weekend. I feel like it's important to connect everybody to nature. Children, most importantly, because they're at a very developmental stage.
Julia, that's
I'm wondering if there's some significance to why you chose concentric circles, to use concentric circles in your design?
I tried organizing from reference lines on the edge, grids and whatnot. Thank you. Woo! Thank you. All right, so the concentric circles as an organizing element, not only to organize my spaces, but when I saw it, as I drafted it and I saw it, I thought, wow, this is like a metaphorical rain dance because we are in a serious drought right now, and this is a way to, another way to interpret our need for water.
Jim.
I'm going to that is second what Michelle said, and I think part of the problem with the fragmentation of it is the scale of your trails. If you look at the scale, it's one that's 600 or something, whatever that is, 600 feet. If you look at the trails, they're kind of 50 feet wide, which is really big.
Are you referring to like just the pathways in
Those might
between?
be 20, but the one up by the diagonal road there.
This one right here?
No,
Oh.
down. Right by, keep going down, over. Just above your red horizontal line.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Like,
Can I tell you what that is? That's the turnaround for buses and cars. That's the
yeah, but all
vehicular.
the trails, I mean, that's
Yes,
the
yes.
They're really, really
They're the
big.
biggest because those are the vehicular circulation throughout
But
the
the
site.
trails, those aren't awful vehicles.
No. And as I mentioned to her
Trails
before,
could be 20 feet wide and
Right.
be like really skinny on this planet. I think that is part of what drove
Exactly.
Michelle's comment. And that relates to, well, and since some of the proof of engineering, you want to try to drive it off.
well, further that, I'll be putting more detail in the book.
Certain kinds of constructability things, but you really do want to drive the scale, the form,
Right.
and all of that. So,
Right.
do that way.
Okay.
Stephanie.
Shawn, I want to say, 2 weeks ago I looked at this, and you didn't have the last 2 boards. You had a really developed area along the river. It really didn't kind of evoke a lot of what you were talking about. And I'm so glad you did the other 2 boards because the others are really maybe over-designed. It's not a judgment call, it's just saying. But the element of the river and some of the things that you talk about really are apparent in these last 2 boards. And I'm so glad that you took, every waking hour to do it, because I really think that it really shows some of the elements you really wanted to show that don't show up in that other highly evolved area. So I just want you to know that it really did balance it out for me too.
Thank you.
Just one comment overall, and you may not want to thank me for asking the question. So don't. This pertains to everybody's presentation. This place called the Forgotten 40 for a reason. It's 40% of the river that's never been addressed in a master plan. And you got communities down there that feel disenfranchised because of it. If you know anything about that climate, as far as what people would think of Paramount and Compton and Lakewood, anybody, not Lakewood, but Belcar, but whatever butts up against the Southern Penn and the river in that stretch, they all have opinions. And not that you wouldn't do this anyway, but I think it's pertinent in real life to understand what's going on in these places. This is wonderful, very theoretical as far as implementation. But you don't know what this little part of town is going to think about this. And I think
I had many interviews with the city of Long Beach.
Long Beach has its own plan.
Oh, I got
these people are hostile. So you got Paramount, all the ones I named, about how people have not addressed this region. So, and it goes for landfills, it goes for disenfranchised communities. We're very theoretical. We don't know how that impacts the people that really live there. And I think if you did a little narrative of that and gave us a little overview of what the climate was, then you can get into the real.
All right.
Mechanics.
Very good. Time for one more question or comment? Yes, sir.
I like your gymongous board.
Yeah.
I had to get approval for that.
It's the same amount of
Ginormous.
That's right.
on 5 words.
That's right. Exactly. Yes, sir.
Quick comment, I know that Shawn investigated many different strategies for how to, what is that basis of organizing everything, different patterns from more rectilinear to the highly organic, and I know that was a big struggle. And I just want a quick comment. I think what you came up with is as viable of a means to organize where your campus is designed together. And also, on top of that, it's very beautiful. When I look at this first board, especially down at the lower area, I like the way it is completing a composition of the city. The freeways no longer look like an anomaly in the city. Your design is actually contributing to that. It's just on a graphic level. From above, I think it's unifying on that, and I think that would be perceived and appreciated at the ground level also.
Excellent comment. All right. Thank you all. Come up and